you can't take the the Lamborghini approach in commercial because there's too much square footage.
And we're back on the Ohio Painting Company podcast. We have the founders of OPC, Kevin Silliman and Nick Goebel. We got Kevin out and about. Nick is back in the shop, the big 8,000 square foot Ohio Painting Company shop there in Springboro, Ohio. So how's it going, fellas?
It's going good.
Okay.
All right. I love to hear it. I love to hear that things are working. You know, we record this on Wednesday to get it ready for you on Thursday. And it's kind of right smack dab in the middle of the week. That was my decision. I don't really know your all's schedule, but I'm sure you're busy toward the middle of the week. Maybe not as busy as you are on Mondays, but I'm always interested in the differences in things and the types of layers that businesses have, because it's not all interiors on houses, you know, cover the couch up. Sometimes you're covering up some pretty big pieces of equipment on commercial jobs. So it's a little different. And I wanted to talk about that specifically because you're working around machinery. I've seen you guys working around stacks of tires, all sorts of stuff. I mean, enormous silos and all sorts of things that are pretty impressive when you're just sitting on the other end of the computer looking at it on a video screen. But for you guys, it has to be just wild. But let's talk about that right off the bat. The difference between residential and commercial. Who wants to take it?
Yeah. So, I mean, even I'll go home and look at an 8-foot wall and hyper focus on imperfections in it. Residential is very detail oriented. It's very, the focus is on, of course, always delivering the quality process. So the similarities between them are clean the surfaces, prep them properly, may include priming, may not. You might have self-priming products over specific jobs that you're doing, but you know, inside you are cognizant of family life, lifestyles, trying to get out of there and trying to get the guys out of there before 5 o'clock. Really aim for 4, so there's a little bit of leeway between 4 and 5, but you don't want to encroach on family dinner time, sports, things of that nature. When you're in commercial, very much the same. You've got to correct imperfections, but you know, you can't take the Lamborghini approach in commercial because there's too much square footage. So, you know, most of it is based on feedback of who the most important people are looking at it and assessing how efficiently that job can be done. And sometimes it's not less in prep, but it could be less in, you got more square footage, so less flooring to protect, more wall to do, but there could be adjacent equipment stuff. And so you're managing the balance of efficiency versus getting the job done properly, and then your awareness of everything happening around you. So if you're doing a commercial project for, you know, an industrial or an institutional facility, you can affect the bottom line or affect it in as little as possible while delivering the same results. So that's you know, looking out for safety and safety lanes and protocol and following what their traffic designs are and staying out of their traffic lanes in the most crucial parts of their day. So very much like, you know, like you're watching out, like, you know, family might need to get and use a room for a certain part of the day, just vacate that room. And a lot of it's in commercial. It's just, you know, accommodating them and what they need to accomplish, but still get the task done and finding the means to pivot.
Got it. Now, when you guys took me out to Weaver Eggs, I really noticed the mass scale of a project like that. I mean, we're talking lifts, we're talking safety harnesses, etc. And that's not necessarily something that you're going to be doing when you're standing on a living room floor painting a wall or restomping a
No.
ceiling. So, but
That would be a good video, though. That would be a great video to have like
harnessing,
have Mr. Safety in a living room and have him like fire marshal Will, you know, like do a whole skit on that. That would be freaking hilarious. Yeah.
there you go. Take the commercial
Get on.
safety inside of a house one time
Yeah.
for a video.
Little 2-step ladder and you've got a harness hooked up to the yeah, that'd be great.
What's the limit when you get so far off the ground? You have to have a harness, right?
You can break a
Um,
neck of 3 foot off the ground, but
Yeah.
yeah,
usually rule of thumb is saying anything 6 foot and above. If you're above 6 foot, I mean, on scaffolding, ladders are a little bit different. You can't tie off on ladders. You just have to make sure that those are set up properly, and then use your common sense. Don't do anything stupid. Um, anyhow, what were you going to say, Kevin?
no, that's it. I mean, yeah, ladders. You know, you can climb as high as 40 freaking feet in the air and you need nothing. But I mean, there are precautions. There are little things that you can do. You can take the safety or the pulley rope and you can tie it off to the building, you know, so that it doesn't, you know, so that it's more stable. And then theoretically, you should be able to tie off to the ladder, and then the ladder would be stable. But that's, I don't think I've ever seen that. I've done it once.
I've seen
So
video, and it was like the backside of a house, and I think it's wild. I really didn't know this until about just a few seconds ago that there's really not a whole lot you can do. I mean, it's obviously um, common sense. There's not a whole lot you can do on a ladder. If you're gonna fall off, you're gonna fall off. If there's a couple of things that you can do, like Kevin just mentioned, then certainly do it. But isn't it crazy that I mean, think about OSHA, right? Um, they're like, all right, if you're on this scaffolding and you're 6 feet off the ground, you better be harnessing up. But if you're 40 feet on a 2 foot wide ladder, you're good to go, fellas.
yeah, pretty crazy. Well, you have to have like in a lift, you know, you're surrounded, you know, in the lift by, you know, this cage.
Yeah,
And I see the point, you know. I mean, but man, if that lift falls over, I would not want to be attached to that thing.
right.
I would want to at the very end jump off and take my chances.
Well, if you jump right at
But
the last second, you are perfectly fine, right? It's like when an elevator falls.
I I have no idea. I'm not testing any theories, but I'm gonna say I'm
I
just
think
gonna out on a limb and say you're probably gonna get hurt if you're up in a lift that high.
Yeah.
But you know, if you're going outside the lift, which you should not, that's not what I'm saying here. But if you go outside the lift, you know, I mean, you've got to be tethered off to something. I've been up in a boom before, 100 feet in the air, scared to death, almost to the point where I could not get back to the bucket. And the guy said it was the closest he'd ever come to not coming up and rescuing somebody. But I was just froze, you know.
Hmm.
And the next day, again, 100 feet in the air on a boom with just like a little cherry bucket.
Mm.
Um, Devonna brings my lunch. Did I already say this
No.
before? But Devonna brings my lunch, and this guy takes hit. He's got my lunch in his shirt, and he's got my Coke in his hand, and he's climbing up this 100 foot freaking lift to give me my lunch. I'm like,
Dedication,
dude, you are
folks.
crazy.
he's climbing
But
the lift.
he was climbing literally. Devonna could confess to it. I mean, she would tell you the same thing. Yeah. Took
That's
my lunch up to me.
wow. Well, good for him, I guess. That's freakishly scary. Did you get a little confidence after that, or were you still froze up there?
Well, every spring for me, for some reason, I'd always. I mean, I'm scared to death of heights. I'm 5'4". I'm good. You know, I don't need to go any higher. But in fact, Dad used to say that all the time. But no, by fall, you know, I mean, I'm stretching all the way over, you know, off the ladder, trying to get that one last little spot that, you know, just because I don't want to move the ladder again, you know.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, the beginning spring, I'm like, stay inside the ladder run, you know. Okay, let's move it, you know. I don't know. Just every
That's
year,
the
it's the
main.
same thing.
That is, yeah. There's definitely, and I mean, Kevin and I work side by side. There's an acclimation period where you have to get used to it, and you have to trust your equipment. So a ladder, you trust a lot less than everything else, like you do a safety lift or like an actual lift or scaffold. And I think the main thing is, the human condition is when we feel comfortable, we're more likely to make mistakes. We move more freely, but I mean, that's why you're tying off on 6 foot up on a scaffold is because it's easier to work. You're more comfortable. You lose your sense of awareness in your surroundings. When you're on a ladder, I mean, all you got to do is just move your head a little bit. And you're aware you're on a ladder. Your feet are hurting. Your hands are gripping the ladder. Like it's all those things. So like you're constantly aware that any wrong move, you could fall off.
Mm.
So that's probably why it seems, some of the rules seem kind of contradictory. And Yeah, if you're up on a lift, I mean, if that thing tips over, you're probably dead. So,
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah,
so
yeah. You
you're
gotta.
you're going down with the ship.
The one time we had a lot of wind to come through. This is back when we lived in Vincent, about 20 minutes from where we are now, and the wind ripped off the aluminum on our soffit right above, and it was a split level, so you have the garage on the left. You guys have seen pictures, and then above the garage is the bedroom with the big window, and it's bless you. But the wind took that aluminum off the soffit, and I call my neighbor. I was like, "Hey, man, you got a ladder?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll be over tomorrow morning." And I was like, "All right, perfect." So he gets this thing over there, and little did I know, he actually borrowed it from an HVAC company that day. Said it was his, but whatever. We got the ladder over there, and he says, "You want me to go up and do it?" And everything in my brain was saying, "Absolutely, yes, go up there and reattach that piece of aluminum," because I'm kind of like you, Kev. I don't dig on heights at all, and the base of the ladder was in loose gravel in the driveway. And he's like, "I'll just hold this if you want to go up." And I'm like, "This is my house. I have to do it. I'm not just going to be a baby about it and make him go do it." So, I'm climbing up this ladder, and it's not as high as you would think when you're standing on the ground. Once you get up on top of the ladder, it's like,
Oh
holy cow,
boy.
this is up there. And I mean, everything turned out fine, but that holding on to the ladder and every little tiny movement when you're trying to reattach a piece of aluminum on the side of your house. It was scary. So that was my really the only time. I mean, I could think of maybe one other. It was maybe a couple of months ago. We went up on a lift, one of those scissor lifts that go up. They were loading cabinets into a dormitory on the Ohio University campus, redid the entire interior on this place. And I was like 50 feet up, I think, whatever 4 stories is, pretty close to 50. And they're loading cabinets off of the lift through an opening into a window that they had removed because it would save time, and they couldn't fit the cabinets up the stairwells. So they had to load them in through the window on each respective floor. And I had to go up there and film with them. And I mean, it was shaky.
Yeah.
And Kevin, you're talking 100 feet off the ground. How shaky is that?
That's pretty shaky.
I
Yeah.
bet. I think
No,
of other people that are up there doing radio tower stuff. Every 6 months they have to go to the top and change the light bulb on there. And my Uncle Johnny, he's a radio man. And he said when you're up at the top of the radio tower, he's been up just to kind of say that he had been up there, I think. And that was something I always wanted to do. But if I can't handle a ladder, I'm not going to be able to handle that. And he says once you're at the top, and it's 400 feet in the air, it's 3 feet one way and then 3 feet the other. So 6 feet of movement, something you would never notice on the ground. That's how much you're moving at the top. 3 feet to back, 3 feet to the front. And that's big. My dad's 6 feet tall. When I need to measure something, I imagine my father laying on the ground. And I say, that's about 6 feet. I've always done it. And I was like, that thing's moving the body length of my father at the top. And it's just terrifying to even hear about. And that's kind of when I said, I'm not going up there ever. Count me out.
isn't that how they measure
That's awesome.
horses and hands? Don't they like walk
Yeah.
hands across
Yeah. Yeah. That's how they measure.
Yeah.
I measure it with my dad.
Brett, this is three Brett's daddy's length.
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
3 Craigs.
Call that a solid 18 feet.
Yeah.
I had a question, and I didn't put this on the notes, but when you're doing something like Weaver Eggs, 100% commercial property. I mean, with the
Uh,
amount of stuff that you had to do, with all those ins and outs and crazy avenues they had on that property. But when you're talking shop smitten, I mean, is that considered commercial? Because it's certainly not residential. So how does that work?
it is. I mean, it's considered commercial. It is because they run retail hours, and again, you don't want to affect the bottom line. So you don't want to block the entrance during like that assessment. Though, and what you're saying is that as far as the approach and the paints that you're using and the practicality of the approach is very much the same as residential. You're not going up more than 12 foot. Um, a lot of the coatings are the same because those are the same coatings that are in house, and those are inviting coatings. They're premium. They should look premium and kind of add to the atmosphere. Um, so legit, but the logistics and the awareness is a little is still commercial oriented though. Don't want to affect their sales. want to do it, keep things clean and make sure that, you're not, while you're painting something, you're not messing something else up.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to, like I say, I keep thinking about that tire shop when you guys were in there. I mean, covering up those tires. Um, do I have that right? Was it tires?
No, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Bob's
mean,
World Tire.
I remember it seemed like thousands of tires in there. It was a
Oh, it's a
huge
lot of
warehouse.
tires. It's. I was just in one today. This is I'm not sure. I'm not going to say the name of the company because they have a bunch of disclosure stuff, but they operate in military warheads to baseball bats, like and in between. Okay,
Wow.
but to see when they do an overhaul, and that's what they're doing over there, is they're installing an entire conveyor system that's overhead. It's about 15 foot up, and these large pieces of equipment are going to hang through them, and it's going to move them through into a paint booth, and it's an automated paint booth, and then also a drying rack. But anyhow, this conveyor system itself, for it might be, so 100 by 100, that's 1,000 square foot. It might occupy 1,000 square foot on this floor space. Actually, I want to say it's closer to 2,000. Nonetheless, it's occupying that much space. 10 times 100 is 1,000. So it's actually closer to 10,000 square foot.
Right. Yeah. I was,
As
okay.
it winds through, though, it is, I mean, it's probably a mile long. And they each have stations. So like they have them hanging on this. And so it's always fascinating to see what the manufacturing production processes are and what goes into it, and to see like over here when they get it loaded on, here's a loading station. It's going to be on this whole conveyor system for the duration of a mile, basically. But along that mile, they're going to have a prep station. They're going to have different guys working on things by hand. And then the last stage is going to be send it into the paint booth, let it be sprayed, and then send it into the curing booth. And so they have a separate light booth, and they're right next to each other. And just to see how those things are done, like Weaver eggs, we actually were never, due to biohazards, never able to see firsthand their chicken facility. Like, but we did get to see videos of it. And Tim up there, he's the son of the owner. He's an egg man, just like what's a movie with Daniel Day Lewis? I'm an oil man.
Oh, I don't know.
Don't know. Anyhow, he's an egg man, and he's passionate about eggs, and like, so he wanted to show us. He's like, but I can't bring you back from biosecurity and all these things, and the chicken flu and the bird flu and all. I'm like, we get it. He's like, but let me take your phone inside so I can show it to you. So then he grabbed Kevin's phone. He goes inside and he comes in and he's filming everything, and he turns around and he like gives himself like a little selfie and like smiles and turns back around. But it's really neat to see that. Not many people get to see behind the curtain of Oz, and sometimes it's lackluster and sometimes it's overwhelming and kind of awe inspiring. It's like, wow, you talk about scale, like that's a different type of scale. Like the money that goes into it is just it's done right. But go ahead. And yeah, I'm going to stop because I know butter and sausage, but like 10,000 square foot of a facility that is maximized and totally efficient, for them to shut down 10,000 square foot so they can install a new, you talk about losing on the bottom end. Like if that thing falls a week behind, they're losing multi-million dollars. So like they have to stay on schedule. So, it's overwhelming to be a part of that, but it's really cool.
Yeah. I was thinking, I was at Weaver Eggs for one, and we learned so much about eggs that day. I mean, it was freezing cold outside. He was just chatting with us about eggs. Chickens, they don't lay the same egg every single time. There's different grades of eggs. Some are tiny, some are a little bigger, some are the big
Yeah.
jumbo eggs, and then they go in and do all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I mean, he was the Nick Goebel of the egg world.
Oh yeah. And
Yeah.
he and also you remember him bragging on that machinery. He's like, they've got all these new machines. Like the best egg sorting machine we have was made in 1984. He's like, they don't make parts for it anymore. So when it breaks down, we fabricate parts. But anyhow, yeah, he was hilarious. He was awesome.
I remember trespassing and getting yelled at over the loudspeaker.
Oh
So
yeah.
everybody would know where we were. That was good stuff. Now, okay,
That
so
was
you
funny.
guys, yeah, it was. You guys have your own rules inside of somebody's house. When you're on a commercial job, you got to start following some other rules that they may have in place for safety. and, don't touch this button, don't go over here when XYZ is happening. You ever run into that stuff? I mean, do you guys have to shoot some notes around to the crew that's going to be working there to get them in the know about what not to do? Remind them, hey, this isn't a house. There's more rules to follow. Maybe a hard hat zone in some situations. Talk about that.
The crews that are on commercial, for the most part, when they get to those areas, like say net jets, um, where it's logistical, we can only be in an area a certain time. Like, so yeah, there's an integration period and an acclimation to them understanding the rules, and so you don't walk them through, 100,000 square foot facility and go through all the rules at once. It's more like, okay, this is our focus this week for the next 3 days. This is what we're going to do. This is what we can and can't do, and you work through that, and then you move into the next section, and you have that, and then you might have to go back to the previous section. So each of them, same mind frame, same, you're trying to achieve the same thing, but the rules are different, like you said, and there's certain times you can get in. So best thing you can do is go through it patiently with the guys and explain everything, and don't be afraid of failure after you've completely done that, because you're likely going to, hopefully you're not going to break one of their big rules, but like, some of the smaller ones will, and then you can come back and refine those. But after you establish that in a rhythm, then the guys are already aware, at least the crew leader and everyone, the crew, they're aware and they've got to figure it out. And so the goal is, whether the job is $100,000 job or a $2,000 job that we're doing, keep the same crew there so they understand the processes, the check-in, the identity check, all of the things that you get tied into when you do larger, especially hush hush private secret type organizations. Some you just can't even take pictures in. Like, we've been in some Chinese manufacturing plants where you can't even pull your phone out to take notes. It's
No
pen and
kidding.
paper.
Wow.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I pulled my phone out, took a picture, and I was rushed by three guys. And they're like, "No, no, no!" And they all had to like double check to make sure that I had erased that photo and I had no information. It's like, all right, well, I'm pretty sure you guys steal all of our technology. That's why you protect us so much. That's your insecurity. But anyhow, I mean, we'll play along though.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you have to in those situations. Good stuff. Kevin, you out flexing your fishing license today or what?
As soon as we get done.
I see a couple items there in the back. You kind of seem like you're in a park area. I
Yeah,
think that Chevy HHR that just passed you is actually on a bike path and he's reversing.
it is. Yeah,
Oh
that's
my
why I was like,
God.
what is going on with him? Yeah.
Live action, folks. Well, guys, I want to
Yeah.
thank you for letting me in the know a little bit about the differences between commercial and residential. Kev, I'm gonna let you get to your thing. Let's try and catch a big one. What did you catch
It's a
the other
little
day?
warm out. I caught two saw guy on a flathead. It was early in the morning. I got up. I couldn't get back to sleep. I think I woke up oddly enough at 4:20 in the morning.
Nice.
And yeah, and then I just couldn't get back to sleep. So I went on ahead and went out and went fishing and caught two saugers and a big old flathead. That was
There
pretty
you go.
fun. Oh, the on the picture the other day though, that was a snook down
Snook.
in
Yeah.
Florida. Yeah, I was down in Florida last week. So yeah.
Had to head to the Sunshine State to get the snook. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I actually went down just to pick that boat up. And then on my way, I was going to stay down there and it
Sail
was
back.
Friday. Well, yeah,
Be
but
awesome.
no, no, that would be cool. But I thought I was going to stay there for a couple of days and just head back like Saturday night and be back, to work Monday. But I caught that snook and I was like, I think I'm good. So I just took
Yeah.
off, came home
Hey
right away.
guy, what do you guys think they call a snook off the East Coast around New Jersey?
Probably Snooky.
A snooky.
My gosh. Dad jokes are firing up hot over
Yeah,
here.
they are.
Oh
Yeah, and
man.
the dads are at, yeah. Oh boy.
Just when I thought
uh,
all of that memory was out of my brain, you had to bring it back up.
oh,
I,
it's
I was
there.
I
It's
was
just
never a
repressed.
watcher. I never watched that garbage.
Yeah,
I've never watched it either. Yeah.
I have. My wife and
I
we enjoy it.
I
Yeah,
have. He
I know.
says.
Obviously, reluctantly, it's like, yeah,
I
okay,
and my
let's
wife.
dig up Nick's past. Yeah,
That was probably some college days for you, though, wasn't it?
it was on the back end of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think
Hmm.
of the route from Florida. Were you on the Atlantic side or the Gulf side?
I did both. The boat was over on the on the Gulf side, and but I caught that snook over on the East Coast. So yeah.
I'm just thinking, if you want to take that boat, I mean, it would be a horrifically long trip. You probably have to stop for food. But you just link right up with the Mississippi River, sail that bad boy to St. Louis, take a right on the Ohio, and wind up in Cincinnati. Take a few days.
It'd take a few days because it's only a 90 horsepower. It's
Yeah.
just a little 17-foot boat. So yeah, it'd take a while.
Yeah, no doubt. That'd be
Yeah.
fun though.
I might
Kevin,
bring it over there this weekend.
you gonna bring it to Marietta, you say?
Might, yeah.
Is that a sailing trip or are you gonna trailer it?
Up the Ohio
Yeah,
River.
Yeah, no, no, that'd take a little bit too long. I'm gonna I would bring it over. I'd trailer it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
Well,
up to
hey,
Muskingum.
let us know. We might want to hop on with you. Should you want
Never
some
know.
company out there, get the life jackets out.
Yeah,
Kevin and Nick,
I got 'em.
founders of OPC. Thanks so much, Kevin. Get to your thing. I know you're chomping at the bit. Start casting
it's
out in the
good.
water. So do your thing.
Yeah.
We'll be talking to you soon on the Ohio Painting Company podcast. See you guys.
See ya.
See, Brett.